All right, so we're gonna get started here with the PvE guide. PvE is very simple, fairly simple. It's all scripted, so nothing's really gonna change. The important things you need to know about PvE is probably just spec, rotation, and I'm just gonna kind of talk to you about like my mindset on how you do the most throughput, basically. Like what you should be thinking about when you go into bosses. There's a couple like tips that I picked up. A lot of people have been helping me. First thing, I'm gonna start off with specs, and I'm basically just going to tell you what spec I use in Mythic Plus and what spec I use for rating. I don't really change my spec too often. In Mythic Plus, contrary to rating, I don't really like the chain heal spec. It doesn't feel very fluent. It feels like spamming chain heal isn't that great. One thing that you don't do in rating that you do a lot in Mythic Plus is you spam healing surge. So healing surge is actually super powerful in Mythic Plus, and because of that, I find undulation really powerful. I'm really stubborn and I'm a PvPer, so I normally end up using Gust of Wind all the time. But Wind Rush Totem is really powerful in certain situations. In Mythic Plus, I'm not so certain, but it could definitely give you speed to kind of move to your next bosses if you're trying to push a timer. Graceful Spirit, also really powerful, shortens the cooldown of that Spirit Walkers. This talent is probably just personal preference. I would say there's no wrong answer. In rating, it's probably better to have one of these, but I really like Gust of Wind. It allows you to get out of some of those like mechanics where you just need to move as quick as possible. It also lets you be kind of like a little more greedy if you're standing in some sort of mechanic that you need to get out of, so you could finish your heal and then maybe pop out with Gust. For Mythic Plus, I would normally say play Cap Totem. Earth Grab doesn't really feel that important, capping a whole bunch of mobs. Definitely really powerful. Once again, since you're kind of playing like a single target healing spec for Mythic Plus, Crashing Waves feels really powerful in my point of view. You're just basically going to be spamming healing surges. Mana should not be an issue in Mythic Plus. You should have plenty of time to recoup mana or to get drinks or do whatever you need to do. So just bombing out healing surges all the time, making sure you have tidal waves up as often as possible. Really good. In Mythic Plus, I normally only use Earthen Shield. Ancestral Vigor could be powerful. Ancestral Protection Totem, I'm not so sure of. I don't really think you'll get that much value out of it. But Earthen Shield's kind of just always my go-to. I just personally really enjoy this as a talent. It feels much more interactive than something like Ancestral Vigor or Ancestral Protection Totem, where you're using this once every 5 minutes, and this is kind of something passive. So having something that you can kind of use as a cooldown, help your team avoid some damage, feels very nice. Echo the Elements is also really good in Mythic Plus, just because once again you're keeping the tidal waves up. You always get those crit healing surges, pretty good. You could try Cloudburst. I don't really like it in Mythic Plus, doesn't feel necessary. Bottomless Depths, you shouldn't have any mana issues. So we're just kind of sticking with this single target spec here. And finally, Ascendance is super powerful in Mythic Plus. Ascendance in this expansion feels really nerfed in terms of the range. So in rating, there's a good chance that if you're actually using Ascendance, you may not even be close enough to a lot of people for Ascendance to actually benefit the whole raid. In Mythic Plus, it's not really the case. It feels like you're kind of all clumped up. Really powerful raid cooldown in Mythic Plus. So I would say this is actually the exact spec I normally roll with in Mythic Plus. You could change up a couple talents. It's not really going to hurt you that much. You could go Torrent, but I normally find that you spam Healing Surge so much that Undulation is more powerful. If you personally like Unleash, it's definitely not going to hurt you to play Unleash. If you personally like AG, you could play AG Cloudburst if you want. Mythic Plus, it's not really the end of the world. Min-maxing, I'm sure there is some of it, but this is just personally what I play. I like this spec a lot. I think it's definitely powerful Mythic Plus, and from what I've seen, this is from what I've felt the best. In rating, it's a little different. In rating, I actually switch up, I think, everything. I actually don't have any tomes on me, so you're going to have to kind of visualize here. In rating, I go for a full AoE fight spec, or excuse me, I go for a full AoE healing spec. This could change depending on the fight. And once again, a lot of my talents are kind of more personal preference. I normally play the exact same spec every single time. So I go Unleash, Gust of Wind, Lightning Surge, AG, Earthen Shield, Cloudburst, and High Tide. And what I do with that is to get the max throughput, you only have one Riptide charge. So you basically can only have 2 Riptides out at a time. You want to try and always rotate Riptide on the tanks and never really overlap with that. And you want to make sure you always Unleash, and you want to try and use it with a Chain Heal. So Unleash Chain Heals are really powerful. It's probably the way you're going to get the most healing. So that's pretty good. AG is basically your Ascendance. You could actually use it on the same bind if you only have one bind. So you go into Mythic Pluses, you use Ascendance. That's your big AoE cooldown. You go into Raids, and use AG. So it could literally be the same bind. I actually use it as the same bind. That's why I'm giving you guys that recommendation. One thing that you want to make sure that you never do is you never want to use AG without Cloudburst, or else you're going to really, really hurt your healing. And a trick that I actually learned, someone actually helped me, is you want to make sure that you always have Cloudburst down when you have AG up. So ideally, you want to drop Cloudburst. It lasts for 15 seconds, and then about when it has 7 or 8 seconds left, that's when you pop AG, and then you go for your big healing. So your Cloudburst actually explodes when AG is still up, so you get all that extra healing. So that's one thing that you always want to use in combination. It's really good. So talking about the first talent, I like Unleash because I think it's really powerful with Chain Heal and High Tide. A lot of Resto Shamans play Torrent. A lot of Resto Shamans play Undulation. I definitely think that it changes depending on the fight. For example, I noticed myself thinking that Undulation is probably better on Mythic Botanist. But I just like Unleash. Personal preference. Unleash is something I've had for years now since Cataclysm. I don't really like the healing rotation without it. It just doesn't feel the same to me. We kind of talked about this a little bit in the Mythic Plus section. Windrush Totem is incredibly powerful on fights where you kind of need to move your entire raid. For example, Crosis, you got to get off the bridge when he's smashing it. That's one example of it. Graceful Spirit is really powerful when it feels like you need to run cast a lot. You kind of move a lot in Mythic Tichondrius. I would say it's pretty good for Mythic Tichondrius. Yeah. I'm supposed to turn those alerts off, sorry. So yeah, Graceful Spirit is pretty powerful. And personally, I just like Gust to Win. And anytime I can play Gust to Win, it's my favorite ability that they added in Legion. This is my #1 favorite ability. It just allows you to move so easily. You know, if you have to get in front of the Seeker Swarm on Tichondrius, you could just Gust from one side right to the middle. It's no problem. This talent is probably not going to do you too much harm. Earth Grab, I would never play Voodoo Totem, but Earth Grab or Cap Totem in Mythic raids, like actual 25-man raids. Cap Totem's probably still better. You can get some caps on ads. Good on Crosis, good on Botanist. Earth Grab's still probably very good on Botanist as well. Don't get me wrong. You could just root a bunch of the Lashers, but kind of personal preference once again. The reason I say go with AG instead of Crashing Waves here is because you're not going to really find yourself using a lot of single target healing where it matters. You don't really need to pump out healing surges as fast as possible. So getting those crit healing surges doesn't really happen that often. So you don't really need the two stacks of tidal waves. You normally just kind of use healing waves. It doesn't really matter if they're slow in PvE because normally when you're using healing waves, it's just a filler. You know, you're not trying to pump out max healing. So these slow healing waves like this, they're really not that bad. It definitely doesn't affect you. Having AG is super powerful. It's a massive raid healing cooldown, especially if timed well with Cloudburst. You definitely want to go with AG here. And it's a 2-minute cooldown, so you could use it so frequently. Earthen Shield Totem is something that I personally like, and it also kind of helps you pad the meters a little bit. If you use Ancestral Protection or if you use AV, you're going to do less healing overall. Earthen Shield is normally between 5 to 10% of my total healing, so it kind of helps your EPing a little bit. Maybe help you out-heal some of those healers just so you could say, I'm better than you, lol. Ancestral Protection Totem, I do get told to spec this on certain fights. We did use it on Mythic Tichondrius just in case we had to have someone soak one of the Seeker Swarms, just res them up. It doesn't count as a B-res. We do use it on Botanists in some situations if in Phase 3 we just want someone to die. So if your guild tells you to go Ancestral Protection Totem, don't argue with them. Just use it. If you have like a fight where you actually have a planned death for someone, Ancestral Protection Totem is probably the #1 choice to take just because it doesn't count as a B-res. You could use it in the same spot every single time. You know someone's going to die there. It's all part of the plan. So definitely really good. Ancestral Vigor is something that if you feel like maybe your tanks need to have just a little bit more HP or your raid needs to have a little bit more HP, it's pretty good. 10% health is very powerful. Cloudburst is definitely the spec you take with Ancestral Guidance. Like I said, Cloudburst is really powerful. You want to use it as often as you can. It's all about timing, but you definitely want to make sure you always use it with the AG. Like I said, you want to use it a few seconds before the AG. You want to wait till there's about 7 or 8 seconds left on the frame. It's going to be right up here under your player frame. When it says 7 or 8, you pop the AG, you start going ham with your Unleashes, your Unleash chain heals, your artifact weapon. Very, very good to do. And if you're using AG with Cloudburst like that, you're definitely going to notice that your healing is going to be so much better. And then High Tide, definitely just the #1 choice for raiding. You're chain healing so much that, without this, your healing is going to be significantly worse. the chain heal overall is going to do less. It's going to hit one less target. So High Tide, definitely your number one choice on the raid healing. If you're not playing that, you're probably going to notice that your raid healing is a lot better. But I would say for the most part, this first and second tier is very changeable. It doesn't matter. The third tier doesn't matter. I would definitely say Ancestral Guidance, Cloudburst, and High Tide are a must-have for terms of raid healing and PvE. So it doesn't really matter which other ones you switch. For example, if you want to change this one up or you want to change this one up, shouldn't matter too much. But AG, Cloudburst, High Tide, must-have. You want to make sure you go really hard for that. Now, obviously, this is just talent choices, all right? You got the right talent choices now. You still feel like your healing's slacking a little bit. I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit about what the rotation is. It's fairly simple. I wonder if I can actually get to an in here because I kind of want to change my talents just so you guys can see. I kind of want to show this to you. There's a couple tips and tricks I picked up. I talked about one of them. I'll talk about some more. I don't actually know if this is an in over here. I actually don't know. Pleb Central, you're going to have to edit this part out. LOL. You guys here for the live guide saw it happen. Okay, so we can switch our talents right now. Right? All right, we go Cloudburst, we go High Tide, we go Unleash, we go AG. Let me put AG on my bar. Let me put Cloudburst on my bar. Oops. Okay, is that everything? All right. So, simple rotation is at the start of every fight, there's normally not a lot of damage going out. So normally at the start of every fight, I just start off with an Unleash Riptide on the tank. And normally throughout the fight, all you're going to really want to do is you're going to want to rotate Riptides on cooldown on the two different tanks, okay? So Riptide one tank, Riptide the other tank. The tanks are the people that are always taking damage throughout the entire course of the fight. Sometimes you do end up riptiding a target that maybe has like some sort of dot effect that you kind of need to heal through, and they need like residual healing for a large period of time. But other than that, you're just rotating Riptide on the two tanks the entire time. You don't really want to Riptide anyone else because normally they get top from raid healing. I personally find that just Riptiding the two tanks is a must-have in PvE. You always want those hots rolling on them. You always want to keep the tanks up. So just really practice on Riptiding the first two tanks. And normally you start the first Riptide off with an Unleash just because it's the start of the fight. You're not really going to go for an Unleash chain heal that early in the fight. So that's completely fine to do. So that's what you do with Riptide. Obviously, Healing Stream on cooldown. If you're using the 4 set, you want to make sure that you have Healing Stream on cooldown before Riptiding. So like at the start of the fight, instead of just Unleash Riptiding, you would go Healing Stream, Unleash, Riptide, and you lower that cooldown. So if Healing Stream's off cooldown and you're using Riptides and you have 4 set, let me shut this door. Hold on. Obviously, the dogs disagree with me. You got to make sure you use the Healing Stream and then the Riptide. Constantly reset the cooldown on that Healing Stream and Riptide. So Healing Stream on cooldown, Riptide on cooldown. I know this sounds like really basic stuff. We'll get into some more stuff that maybe you don't know. If you're playing Jonets, or if you have Jonets, you want to make sure you kind of try and like weave in some healing waves. Always stack that up. But in any type of downtime, it's 100% okay to just use Healing Wave. Healing Wave is super mana efficient, so if you feel like the raid's not taking damage, you could definitely just Healing Wave tanks. It's no big deal. You just slowly but surely to use it. You're never going to from using Healing Wave. It's super mana efficient. One thing in PvE is I would say almost never use Healing Surge unless you're trying to heal through some insane tank damage or some crazy mechanic such as Mythic Anomaly, where they have those red debuffs and you need to get the red debuffs off immediately. And even then, sometimes you don't need to do it. Healing Surge is a no-go. Healing Surge is super mana inefficient. You're definitely going to burn through that really quickly. You don't want to do that. So you got the Healing Stream, you got the Riptide, you got the Healing Waves. One thing that you want to know is that most people probably don't do this, and if you are doing it, for almost every single chain heal, you want to make sure you use Unleash Life. It's how you're going to get the most effectiveness out of your chain heal. So you don't really want to use Unleash without chain heal, but you kind of want to use the Unleash chain heal on cooldown. You want to maximize that HPS. You don't really want to sit on your Unleash for a really long time. If there's not a lot of raid damage going out and you're not using your Unleash, and you think you could have gotten 2 Unleashes in the time that you only used 1, that's when you want to squeeze in another Unleash Riptide. So If there's not a lot of raid damage going out and you're not going to use Unleash for 15 seconds, throw an Unleash Riptide up on the tank. It works for the entire duration of the hot. Not just the initial heal, but it works for the whole duration of the hot, which is really powerful. This is healing for 46k. This is only healing for 32k. So that's definitely going to boost up your HPS a little bit. Now this is something I learned a little bit later. One thing that's really nice about Cloudburst is I didn't actually know this. You can actually drop Cloudburst after the heal. So for example, if you Cloudburst after a chain heal like that, it is supposed to have the healing already absorbed. That's weird. I don't know why that didn't work. I swear that works. Alright, well, I look like a fool if that's changed, but that's normally how I do it in PvE. Maybe that doesn't work anymore. Hold on, I'm going to test this again. I swear that works. If that's actually not true, FlebC edited this part out. No, I'm just kidding. I do this all the time in raids. And I've actually tested it before, and I guess it doesn't work anymore. Alright, so scratch that. So I guess you want to make sure you drop Cloudburst before your Unleash chain heal, and you also need to drop Cloudburst before your AG and stuff. I used to, oh, someone said try not being full HP. Interesting, interesting. Alright, let me try this, let me try this. Oh yeah, because it, no, I think it works on overhealing. Hold on a second. Alright, we'll try this one more time. We'll try this one more time. I think it works on overhealing, but we'll see. Okay, it just doesn't work anymore. Fail fish. I've tested this before. It looks like it was changed. So you want to make sure that before you're going for a big chain heal, drop Cloudburst first. I don't know why that was like a tongue twister for me. That's actually news to me. That's actually going to help a lot because basically you're weaving in Cloudburst with gigantic chain heals, and this first chain heal with Unleash is actually going to put so much healing into your Cloudburst. So yeah, so you go for the Cloudburst, you go for the big chain heal, it's going to stack up. I actually forgot about Healing Rain here. Healing Rain down all the time. Basically your must-haves are your Healing Rain's down all the time, your Healing Stream's down all the time, your Riptides are on cooldown, and then you're basically using chain heal with Unleash as often as you can, maximize your HPS. We talked about a little bit about the Cloudburst. I'll show you how this works in a second. Just gotta wait for Cloudburst to be off cooldown. Alright, so Cloudburst down. You want to wait till it gets about to 8 to 7 seconds. So you could during this time you definitely want to be healing. You know, you want to be getting as much of this as possible. And now you pop AG. You actually should have Unleashed before that. You pop AG, you start going ham with the chain heals. You want to make sure that you gifted the Queen with the AG up. And when it explodes, the Cloudburst explodes, it actually benefits from that AG, so that's super powerful. That's someone actually showed me that before I actually used to drop Cloudburst immediately, and the Cloudburst wasn't actually exploding with the AG. So you want to make sure that the Cloudburst is always blowing up while the AG is active. The one way that I always use Artifact, it doesn't line up perfectly, and this may be the wrong way to do it, but I always try an Artifact inside AG, and I always try an Artifact inside Cloudburst to kind of maximize that healing output. But yeah. Alright, I'm trying to think. Earthen Shield Totem is fairly simple. Anytime you think there's going to be a little bit of spike of damage, you could even just drop it on the tanks on cooldown. It's really not that big of a deal. Earthen Shield's fairly simple to use. You know, 1 minute cooldown, any type of damage going out, just use it. Super short cooldown. Not really too much thought about it. If you feel like there's times where you should definitely be dropping it, just kind of go for it. If there's more than 3 or 4 people taking damage, you feel like you need chain heals, just drop the Earthen Shield Totem. It's really simple. So like, let's just say we're starting a fight right here, okay? Countdown's at 5, 4, 3. You got the healing raid. You got the healing raid down. You got the healing stream down. You get the Unleash up. You go ahead and Riptide the tank, and now you just get a couple healing waves up, and you know, as soon as the next Unleash comes up, hopefully there's some raid damage going out. You're supposed to Riptide the second tank there, but you just want to make sure the healing rain's always down, healing stream's always down, Riptides are always going down, and in terms of rotation, it's fairly simple. But yeah, just the few things I learned that really help HPS is Unleash into chain heals. That's number 1, really powerful. You should probably Cloudburst before that, but I'll talk about that in a second. And number 2 is using Cloudburst and then popping AG as the Cloudburst is going to explode. So you want to use Cloudburst, and then you pop AG around 7 or 8 seconds. Normally the first thing I do when I pop AG is before I pop AG is I get an Unleash up, and then I pop AG, I use my Artifact, and then I start using Chain Heal. So since we already have that Unleash up, we save 1 global in our AG, if that makes sense. If we would have used Unleash Life in our AG only lasts for 10 seconds, and for a second and a half, used healing that wasn't relevant. You know what I mean? During AG, you just want to spam, spam, spam. You want to do maximum throughput. Obviously, if people are at full HP, you don't really want to overheal. But as long as you're like maximizing, as long as you're maximizing just like keeping healing rate down, keeping healing stream down, keeping Riptide up, and if people are at full HP, just use healing waves. You shouldn't really but even then, sometimes you maybe you need some mana pots or late torrent potions or something like that. I don't personally like late torrent potions because I'm really greedy. I want to do the maximum healing I can, and if I'm like kind of out of it for 10 seconds, just getting mana, it doesn't really feel that great. I would rather just use a regular mana pot, take 80,000 less mana. But yeah, okay, so you got the spec, you got the rotation. Now I'm going to kind of talk to you about like the mindset on when you go into a fight, how do you do the most HPS? So every single time I go into a fight, I start off the same way. This is progression. You know, you don't really know what's going to happen. So like I said, at about 5 seconds, I start casting Healing Rain, and I immediately drop Healing Stream. I go for Unleash. That's actually wrong. You should Unleash then Healing Stream, but I'm bad. So, you know, drop Healing Rain, go for Unleash, drop Riptide or drop Healing Stream, and then Riptide the first tank. Now just slowly cast Healing Waves. Not really much raid damage going out. You're gonna re-Healing Rain. You're gonna Riptide the second tank. You're rotating Riptides on the entire tank, or on both tanks as often as possible. You're keeping the healing streams down. First spike of damage you see, you probably want to use an Unleash, a Chain Heal, or a Cloudburst, Unleash, Chain Heal. Now you don't really know when damage is going to happen. So during the first spike of damage, that's when you're going to AG. You're going to use Earthen Shield Totem. So for example, if any of you guys are working on Mythic Botanist or did Botanist, I noticed that the first time I need to go for first time I go for an AG is basically the first call on night. It's the first spike of raid damage. To do the most healing in raids, you gotta maximize your cooldown usage. You want to use them as often as possible. So you don't want to really sit there and be like, oh man, there was a huge spike of damage. I'm just going to heal through this without using my cooldowns. You know, I could just chain heal this. I don't really need to use my AG. You want to use AG. First spike of damage, you want to drop Earthern. You want to drop AG. You want to heal through it. And like I said, when you use AG, it's really simple. So you get Cloudburst down. You go for the Unleash. You start going for some chain heals. This is about to hit 8 seconds. Alright, boom, you go off. AG goes down, Gift of the Queen goes off, Chain Heal's going out. You always want to use Gift with Cloudburst and AG, so it's really, really powerful. Obviously, there's going to be times where you have Gift without AG, and then you want to make sure you use it with at least Cloudburst. But yeah, first spike of damage, use AG. Second spike of damage, use Healing Tide. Third spike of damage, AG is most likely going to be up. So I normally like using AG first. It's a 2-minute cooldown. So you have AG, you have Cloudburst, you have AG. They line up really well. It feels like you get a really good flow that way. And then you use Earthen Shield every 1 minute, okay? Every single 1 minute you're going to be using Earthen Shield. You're going to get a lot of Earthen Shields per fight. Obviously, if you're not playing it, you can't use it. But yeah, so you go into the fight, and PvE is scripted. Every time there's a spike of damage, that spike of damage is always going to be at the same spot. If you guys use DBM and stuff like that, so you need to figure out when you want to drop the Cloudburst, because that's where it gets tricky with AG. It's all about timing. So if you know that spike of damage is coming in 7 seconds, you drop the Cloudburst. And then 7 seconds later, when that spike of damage comes, you're already ready for it. You're pre-healing. You pop AG right now, and you're already casting Gift of the Queen. Boom, the spike of damage goes off, you snipe the healing. So you want to make sure you're always on top of just like, kind of, I guess, the rotation. And then the next spike of damage, you know, you Healing Tide, you Earthen Shield. It's really, really simple, but one of the biggest mistakes that you can make if you're just trying to push your HPS is not using your cooldowns often enough. Some guilds might kind of require you to do a rotation in terms where they say use Healing Tide here, use Healing Tide there. You can try and be aggressive and be like, yo, I'm going to use my AG on this one, I'm going to use my Healing Tide on this one, I'm going to use my next AG, and then you guys could start using your stuff. Because as a Shaman, these cooldowns are really, really powerful. You're probably going to be able to heal through most raid damage by yourself just using the Cloudburst, AG, and the Healing Tide. Healing Tide and Cloudburst don't actually work, so like if you drop Cloudburst and use Healing Tide, it's not going to count towards the Cloudburst healing, but It's fairly simple. So whenever I'm going into a fight, it's always starting off the same way. You're kind of looking for that first spike of damage. You know, you're dropping your healing streams, you're dropping your Riptide, you're keeping up all the healing in between. One thing I want to talk about is you want to maximize your uptime with Cloudburst. So if you're not using AG for the first 30 seconds of the fight, you want to make sure you use Cloudburst in the first 30 seconds of the fight, if that makes sense. You want to just get it rolling all the time because, for example, let's just say I use Cloudburst at 40 seconds in. If I drop my Cloudburst at the first 10, or excuse me, if I use AG 40 seconds in, if I drop my Cloudburst at the first 10 seconds, it'll be back up for when we actually need that AG. So you got to really have a lot of timing. It's a little bit tricky. If there's times where AG's on cooldown, you want to make sure that I said this, you want to gift with your Cloudburst. Apparently, you need to make sure you drop Cloudburst before all this stuff. So, you know, Cloudburst goes down, Chain Heals go out, Gift to the Queen following it. You want to make sure you kind of use Gift as often as possible. It's really, really good. It costs 0 mana. It's a lot of healing, but yeah, there's not really too much to PvE. It's just about like the mindset on how to do maximum healing. So, you just go into the fight, you look for the first spike of damage, use AG, you're probably going to wipe. You know, you get to the second spike of damage, you use your next big cooldown, you're probably going to wipe. And then you just slowly but surely keep adjusting your cooldowns until you get to the point where that spike of damage comes out and you're already on it with AG. You're already on it with Healing Tide. And I mean, you should do great. The healing rotation is really, really simple. I'll kind of just say it one more time, I guess, to reiterate, but, you know. This is, let's just say the count's going. 5, 4, 3, 2. Alright, so right there, we healing rained as it's going down, right on the tanks, right where the fight's going to be at. We unleashed, then we healing streamed, and then we riptided. Slowly just kind of heal the tanks up. You know, healing wave, you riptide the second tank. You always need to have these two riptides going. It's really, really easy. Normally at the start, you actually can drop a Cloudburst because there's not a lot of raid healing going out, but yeah. And then the first spike of damage comes. You're already ready. The Cloudburst is down. You go for the artifact weapon. You go for the chain heals. Probably could have dropped another shield there too, but you want to just make sure you're using your cooldowns as often as possible. If you ever feel like there's going to be an unhealable spike of damage or you just need some damage reduction, just feel free to drop Link on the tanks. I kind of use it as just like, I don't know, as just like a safety link, you know, like, oh, you know what, we can maybe die here, let's just drop Link and deny that. Second spike of damage comes down, use the Healing Tide. Third spike of damage comes down. You just keep doing it. So, like, for example, right here, AG's on cooldown for a little bit. This is coming off cooldown. This is about where I drop my next Cloudburst. So, Cloudburst was off cooldown for a couple seconds, but I want to make sure that I get Cloudburst with my artifact weapon. So, I wait a few more seconds just so I can kind of squeeze this in. So, we get to artifact at the end of the Cloudburst. It puts a little bit more healing into the Cloudburst, and then it explodes. There's a little bit more healing. And, now the third Gift to the Queen, I would probably just wait for my AG again, if that makes sense, because it won't line up that well. But, you know, Cloudburst is coming off cooldown. You just use it again. So, use it immediately, basically. You just want to make sure it's still rolling. And now the next one, the cooldowns are going to line up, so you don't want to use the next one. But fairly simple. You just got to make sure you have the right spec, like we talked about at the start. You got to make sure that you're doing the right rotation, keeping healing rain down, keeping healing stream down. Make sure you're riptiding, and every single chain heal that you do, or every single unleash that you do, you want to make sure you do it with chain heal if possible, okay? Because it's gonna increase your healing by so much. It's unbelievable. If you're not using unleash for a long period of time, you make sure you just do it with a riptide. It's probably going to be so much more effective than just doing it with single target healing. But other than that, there's really not too much to say. I think that's it. All right, cut. Okay. This is obviously the live stream, so if any of you guys have any questions about PvE, I'd be happy to answer. If you feel like I missed anything, be happy to answer. I don't actually have any macros I use specifically for PvE stats. I don't actually really want to talk about stats. I was thinking about doing stats and legendaries and best in slot gear, but that's something that you could just look up on like Wowhead, you know? And I don't really know, honestly. So it's like, it's whatever. I feel like the stats and stuff, but did anyone like learn anything from the basic rotation that's in here that was actually interested in learning the PvE guide? It's really simple with just like keeping healing rain down, keeping healing stream down, keeping riptides up. You definitely want to always chain heal with Unleash. That's really powerful. You definitely want to make sure that you AG with Cloudburst down already for a few seconds. You probably need a chain heal target before dropping the Cloudburst to work. I don't actually know. Let me see if it works with Gift to the Queen. I swear I've done this before and it's worked. It just doesn't look like it works anymore. It looks like it might have been because I've tested this. Someone told me this. I've tested it. It just doesn't look like it works anymore. Should I roll a Shaman? Do you cancel your Cloud Burst to maximize effect? No, I never cancel Cloud Burst. You don't need a macro though because it's just in there. I'm gonna do the PvP guide in a second here, but yeah. So Mystery Games in the video breakdown section, Bond and Curse. How do you target in PvE? I click my targets. I don't actually like mouse overs. That's something I could have talked about. I probably should have added that in there. Sorry about that. It's the range of the heal versus Cloud Burst. I'm not sure what you mean. So like you're saying like this? Oh, it did work. Oh, wow. Oh, so it does work. Oh my god, man. This thing's so confusing. So it actually worked there. Damn it. Alright. I knew something was fishy there. Damn, it's gonna look really awkward in that. Alright. Everyone who wasn't here for the live stream is gonna get cucked. I want to test to see if it works with Gift of the Queen now. It's not there. I feel like I've done this with Gift of the Queen before. It does. Oh my god. It actually just doesn't work if it's on myself. That makes no sense to me. It works because of chain heal delay on other target. That actually doesn't look like it's it because there's no delay with Gift of the Queen. Here, I'm gonna test one more. I'm gonna test it with Healing Wave now. This is so weird. It doesn't work when your initial first heal from chain heal's on you. Well, it didn't work with Gift of the Queen on me either. Let's see if it works with Healing Wave. It did work with Healing Wave. It looks like it just doesn't work when the first heal's on you, honestly. I'll tell Plebsy to put it in like the comments maybe. It just doesn't work if the first heal's on me. That is so weird. Something's not working properly. If I do it on anyone else on any heal, it takes the Cloud Burst, but that's so weird, man. Okay. Either way, Unleash Life versus Riptide, versus Torrent. I don't really like Torrent. I think Torrent's pretty bad. I think Undulation's probably better than Unleash. I told Pleb Central to put in comments on the YouTube that if you Cloud Burst after the heal, it works as long as the initial heal isn't on yourself.
That's what they call me. I promise that you never be lonely. Peter Pan, that's what they call me. I promise that you never be lonely.